runners look at their hobby, or whatever you want to call it, as a way of life, and they just keep running, and they, once they get a sense of physical well-being, they want to keep that up. Whether or not they're competitively at their best or not, they want to keep running. I run because deep down inside I love to run. You are what you do, and I choose to run, so I am a runner.
Now that a lot of us have been running for a while, I guess we're pretty much thinking the same thing. How can we improve? How do we learn to run faster? And does it ever get easier?
Yeah, I think that you can really improve tremendously by leaps and bounds after you've gotten this initial base of, let's say, a year or two of running once a day. And ways to do that are to do more hill work, to do speed work on the track, which is what they call interval training. So you run a certain distance at a faster pace, then jog very slowly, do several sets of that. Or else you can do what they call fartlek. You go out on the roads and change your pace and vary your pace, slow, fast, maybe walk a little, that sort of thing. Those are all different methods. Or you can always try working out twice a day if you've got the time. That'll really bring fantastic improvements.
The body has to learn to adjust to this stress, but then you also need some recovery in between. And I think if you tax your system in some way, whether it be through hill workouts, whether it be through track workouts, intervals, even endurance, doing long distances, your body is going to adjust. It's going to be able to take the new loads. As long as you give yourself recovery in between to rest, it will get better.
And I think after you've been running for a while, maybe a year or two, then start experimenting with different terrains like hill work, trying to integrate some, not too steep a hill, but something with a moderate grade, and something that's not too stressful, that you can adapt to pretty easily in your training workout.
Fartlek is a Swedish word. It means speed play. It's a very effective workout. For example, Gail Barron and her husband often practice it, and she's one of the top marathoners in the country, hates any kind of track work. So what they do is they'll go out on a run, which most of the time they're taking a very steady pace, and they'll put bursts of speed where for maybe 400 yards, 440 yards, they'll run towards an object at a specific pace that they want to do, whether it be race pace, whether it be above race pace, and then get to this object, and then you rest again and do an easy pace jog. You then might want to do a sprint. They'll pick up and do maybe a 100-yard sprint or a 200-yard sprint. And it's a constant speed play. It's a lot of fun if you hate tracks. It's especially fun on cross-country trails to do something like this.
And hill running can be very, very effective. A good workout might be to run up a moderate incline fairly hard, and then when you get to the top, turn right around and jog back down again. Repeat this 8 to 10 times, and then finish the session off with an easy jog down. You have to be careful going downhill always. There's always a risk of turning an ankle or pulling something. Okay, here's a slow motion shot of Bill Rogers running uphill. Bill is one of the world's finest distance runners. Notice his exaggerated arm motion, and notice how hard he's pushing off with his legs. Also, he's leaning nicely into the hill.
If you want to get involved in competition, that sort of thing, you can always join what they call fun runs, which are not so competitive. They're more for fun, but they'll be about 2 miles long, 3 miles long. And I wouldn't recommend people to begin their racing program with a marathon. Begin with 2, 3, 5-mile runs. And I would do that for a year or a couple of years. I didn't run my first marathon until I've been running for 10 years. So I would say that you have plenty of time always ahead of you to experiment with the long ones.
One important thing which sometimes is overlooked is running style. A smoother flow, less excess energy being put out will make you run smoother and go faster. You want to concentrate on rhythm with the arms, a rhythm in your running. They say that running starts with the arms. And you want to think of landing, this is for racers now, not for beginners, but more up on your foot rather than just the heel. And you want to go smoothly, not up and down, not choppy. And I think that the better your style, the more efficient you will be all around. Probably one of the better things to do is to actually just sit down and watch some of your better runners. Watch how they run. Watch the body motion. Go to a track where you know maybe a coach is going to be coaching a college team, and just watch some of the better runners.
Tomorrow, these women will be running in a championship race. They're the finalists from the Bonnie Bell 10K Road Race Series. 10K, or 10 kilometers, is a distance of just over 6 miles. And some of these top competitors will be completing the course in 32 or 33 minutes. Some of these women have had track and cross-country experience in high school and college. Yet others are marathoners and rarely compete on the track. Depending on which events they're training for, they'll run between 60 and 110 miles a week. About 10% of that will be all-out speed work, fast running, and then the other will be moderately paced runs of various lengths, 5, 10, 18 miles. Before running, they always do some stretching exercises. This is helpful in keeping the body in balance and also, most important, to prevent injury. Then after stretching, they do some jogging warm-up, maybe 10 or 20 minutes of that before they begin their workout. What we're going to do this morning is do some slow-motion film studies of these runners. And then we'll have John Babington, coach of the Liberty Athletic Club, critique some of the styles.
This is Chris Lavallee. She's a very versatile runner. She runs the 1,500 meters well, the 800, 3,000. She's good at 10,000 meters, and she holds the Canadian women's marathon record. Her style is easy and relaxed. Nice, low, loose arm motion. She swings those hands just past the hips. Smooth, efficient stride, not too bouncy. Keeps herself nicely in balance. But good runners don't always have perfect style. Here comes Mary Shea. Her form is quite unconventional. Her head has a tendency to tilt over to one side, as you can see. Mary's form isn't that smooth. You'd have to say that she's asymmetrical. But somehow all those motions fit together in such a way that she gets great, great results. If I were coaching her, I'd be very hesitant to tamper with her form. This is Marty Cooksey. She's not very big, but there's a lot of power in that stride. Notice her typical distance runner's stride. Not a very long stride, but she takes more steps per minute. It's a very compact style. Marty is relatively new to running, but she's one of the finest American women road racers ever. She's the national marathon champion and does extremely well in the shorter distances also. But, though, this is interesting. Look at what her feet do as she runs toward us. Look at that little flip in her foot just before it strikes the ground. I couldn't begin to say exactly what effect that has on her running, but it certainly is interesting. Also, notice that her left leg tilts in slightly. The leg is not completely vertical at the moment it strikes the ground. And that foot wiggle could be a compensation for that. In fact, it probably is. Here comes Ruth Caldwell. Ruth is the national 800-meter champion. She specializes in short, fast races. She's running here in her training flats and at a 10,000-meter pace. She's landing on about the middle of her foot, and her stride is not particularly long at this pace. Now Ruth is running in her spike shoes, her racing shoes, and closer to her 800-meter race pace. Notice the difference. Here her feet kick back much higher, her arms are much more active, and her stride is much longer. Yet she's not really in the air that much. See how smoothly she's running. She's landing more on her toes, yet not bouncing. She's almost skimming along. Now, this type of stride would be inefficient in a very long distance run. This type of stride tires out the muscles very quickly. But it's definitely the fastest way to get from the start to the finish in a shorter race.
This is Mary Rodriguez, whose first race was a year and a half ago, the Bonnie Bell race in New York. She's lost a lot of weight, and she's gotten a lot faster in her running. But let's look at her style.
She's a very hard-working runner, but perhaps she's trying a little too hard. Look at those clenched fists. Actually, her legs are quite relaxed, but from the waist up, there's a little too much tension. Relaxation is often a problem for a beginning runner. It's something that sprinters have to learn as well as marathoners. But there are little tricks you can play on yourself. As you're running along, you can ask yourself, are my facial muscles relaxed? Do my shoulders and neck muscles feel nice and relaxed? Are my arms loose? You can shake your arms out just for a second, just to give yourself a feeling of relaxation. You can check your hands to make sure that they're not flopping around, but that your fists aren't clenched too tight either. Just try to maintain an overall feeling of relaxation and smoothness as you run along. Actually, your running style, though, will pretty much take care of itself. Just keep at it and enjoy it.
It's important to have a well-rounded training program, to do stretching exercises after you run. Some before would be helpful also. To have a good pair of shoes with good cushioning, to run on grass or dirt surfaces, like we see here around the pond. Stay away from concrete, and don't increase your mileage too soon. You have to build up very slowly, which is the major thing I'm emphasizing. If you want to improve, the only way to really do it is through consistency and moderation. You can't do it through an intense program really quick. No one's ever done it that way. Your body just won't take it. It'll quit on you.
I think that races are the reward, and I don't think anyone should deprive themselves of that pleasure. You put in all that training, and what is it for? What is it about? It's to prepare, to go out and take the test, run the race, see how good you are, see where you stand.
On race day, Jacqueline Hansen, one of America's great distance runners, was on hand. We asked her to tell us something about the race, and if she could, pass along a few tips about racing technique and strategy.
When thinking about getting into the actual race, it's important to plan it out exactly what you want to do.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You have to think about what's a conceivable pace to run. What kind of a time are you capable of doing at any given time in your training? Pick a goal, and you plot it out. How many minutes a mile does that require? And then you listen to the mile marks in the race, and you try to see if you're on pace. It's very important to not go out too fast, as much as it's, not to go out too slow. But it's something you have to think about before you get to the starting line.
4,524 runners, everybody. Let them know what you think.
This race was definitely a major event. It was a major thing in several different senses. One, that we had 4,500 women out there running. That is a social phenomenon, perhaps. But we also had the very highest quality number of runners that I've seen in one given race. And this is why I think it's really exciting to see a women's only race, because they get the due recognition. It is their event. They're on the front line. They get the good positions. They get first grab at the aid stations. They get all their splits. They get to break the tape first. It appeared to me to be maybe the youngest, fastest field going. A lot of them have come up from track background, and I think that's why we're seeing records dropping in the 10 kilometers, because we're seeing milers and cross-country runners running 10,000 meters. And I think that now we're beginning to see the product of collegiate running programs, high school running programs. We're beginning to see some results. The race started in the Boston Common and went down Charles Street and over the Longfellow Bridge. By the first mile, there was a good, healthy pack of, including like Elizabeth Berry, Marty Cooksey, Chris Laval, Karen Bridges, Joan Benoit, and Betty Springs.
So, at the first mile mark, we've got a time of 5 minutes, 14 seconds, which is right on the money. That's going out pretty fast, but the first mile out, the first and most important thing that these runners want to do is get out clean and have some free running room.
It's critical to get out fast at the start, to go with the leaders, if that's your intention, to run with the lead pack, because they'll slow down as much as you will. Everyone will get tired at the same time, but if you're 50 or 100 yards back, you may never catch up. It's difficult to catch up. It's easy to stay with a pack, but it's difficult to catch a pack. It seems to me that this is a big progressive step in women's running. This was one of the first times I have actually seen a race with this quantity of women and this caliber of women at this distance, where there was some real strategic running going on. There was some very intelligent running going on. Usually in the past, we've seen races where a few people go out too fast and then burn out at the mile. They don't really know what they're doing. It seems like the runners sort of string out in hopeless abandon, and they finish in that order. And this race was not like that at all. The women's running has really moved into another whole plane, and it's really exciting to see. It was like watching a competitive men's race, but they've had a lot more experience at this. There they were at 4 miles all together. 8 of them. It could have been anyone's race, but they were all working off each other. They all had this mutual respect for one another, and they were all running intelligent races. Nobody was going to take it out too fast, and yet they were all looking for their best times. They weren't dogging it either.
Now let's take a look at the 4-mile mark. In the lead, we've got number 4, and that's Karen Bridges from Stillwater, Oklahoma. He was third at the national.
Making a move in the latter stages of a race can really work to your benefit, if you're capable of doing it, and if you're confident. You don't waver at all. If it means passing somebody, you pass them quickly, and you put enough distance so that they don't go with you. They don't draft off you. Joan Benoit said she knew at 5.5 miles she had to make a move. She had to break away just, to get that distance between them. When Joan Benoit made her move, I think she did take the 3 of them with her. They pulled away, but maybe because Joan was making the intentional move, it became her game, and they were going to have to try to play it. The first 3 runners were all from North Carolina. They knew each other. They knew how each other ran, and they would each say the same thing. Joan said, I knew I had to stay on Mary because if she's anywhere near me at the end, she can out-sprint me. Mary was saying, I know I have to stick with Joan Benoit. She's so strong. I know I had to sit with her. And Ellison Goodall knew who she was up against. They all knew.
And I decided, if you're going to run, you got to get up with them now. And I made a move and got up with them and then just stuck tight. And then from there on, it was Joni, Mary, and me pretty much fighting it out. It seemed like the 3 of us. I think Marty was pretty close behind us. But the 3 of us were just going strong. Really, it felt great. It was great fun. I just felt really good. But Joni was tough, and she put in a really strong lift down Commonwealth and really blew me off. I couldn't keep up with her. If I hadn't let that distance separate, it could have been a closer finish because I never really gained it.
Joan Benoit in the lead.
And she stayed really strong. She wasn't going to let me gain
Ellison
it.
Goodall is in second place. 32:55 is the time right now. This is very, very fast time, everybody. Joan Benoit, Cape Elizabeth, Maine, is going to win the National Bonnie Bell 10-kilometer championship. Joan Benoit, everybody. Ellison Goodall, second place. Her time, 33 minutes and 20 seconds. Look how close this is. Let these runners know you're around, everybody. Mary Shea is in third place. From North Carolina, number 11, Mary Shea in third place. Marty Cooksey in fourth place. Number 6, Marty Cooksey. Number 4 is Karen Bridges from Stillwater, Oklahoma, winner of the Denver Bonnie Bell 10K race.
I thought the race as a whole just went splendid. It was just a beautiful production. The whole race went so smoothly. The only thing that went wrong, of course, was that funny little incident where the car drove over the finish line in 15th place, and everybody was baffled as to how it even got there. But, it was no big tragedy.
Were there a lot of people on the course?
It is true. The camaraderie is great. It's just, if I take anything away from running, it's the friends I've made just make it so worthwhile. And they're also warm. I think runners are really, warm, neat, stable people.
As we would pass, we would come this way, and most of the runners were going that way. They were all going like this. I don't know about you guys, but I was going, hey, way to go.
When the pack came by here.
Although, when the gun goes off, it's not crush, kill, destroy, but competitive spirit comes forth, and you go to it. You're your own man then, and you run.
Now the oldest competitor in today's race, 77 years old, Ruth Rothbard.
I began my racing at the age of 75. No, it was 76. 76 years old. And since then, I really enjoyed running. It did something to my way of life that I've never had before, never experienced it. I'm hoping to do more and better in time to come. And I think I will. I really do. I am a runner.